All right. Y'all ready down there? You want to?
Yes, sir.
Jody, you ready? Okay, I'd like to call the Madison County Economic Development Committee regular meeting to order. And Mr. Secretary, I do believe we have a quorum.
We do.
All right, and then the first item of business is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Chair votes aye. Agenda adopted. The June 9th minutes, Jim sent them out. Did everybody have a chance to at least take a brief look at them? Anything we need to do with those?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I move to approve the June 9th, 2026 minutes.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting or approving the June 9th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, they are approved. Okay, public comment. At this time, is there anyone that would like to make public comment about what we are doing? I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to. Ross, come up and identify yourself for Chuck there.
The thing about Steve Huffman, I happen to be Ross Schiffer from West Virginia, longtime resident and taxpayer too. Okay, got that out of the way. I took the opportunity yesterday to stop by and talk to Tracy a bit, and it's just something that's been on my mind. And this committee, I appreciate the work you're doing, and I think you really are trying, to say the least. But there's something I'd like to talk about, what I would consider to be, tourism is kind of where we always come back to. Back in the 80s, we started off there, and there's been all kinds of things we tried to get in the middle, but because of various reasons, be it lack of water, lack of sewer, this, that, and the other, we've never really been able to get anything that we could call sort of an anchor or do anything. We never really had an industrial park idea that took hold. We never basically had anything. So it's kind of like the place behind the pig estate. I don't know what that is, but that's sort of a quasi-industrial park in Madison. We got several businesses working over there, which I think is a good thing. But anyway, what I want to talk to you about is my grandson from Chattanooga happened to be up visiting, and I happen to think about it. Every time I go to Chattanooga and go anywhere down there, be it whatever, I'm in the state of Tennessee, I pay an event tax to go there. I pay some kind of tax on something, for, a little bit extra. And I think in today's thing, if we're going to look at tourism, that we have to look at a way, if we're promoting tourism, that there's a way for the county government to get back some of what it costs. Most events that go on in the county basically have some form of county support, be it the law enforcement, be it EMS, or some group that the county winds up funding in some way or another. And I think it's sort of time to rethink the whole thing, and the economic development thing from living a former life, working with Parks and Recreation in Culpeper, is the planning for a lot of rec events wind up being recreation, be it people come stay for an event, so forth, so on, restaurants and this, that, and the other. And I know you're working on both of those things from different ends, and I just kind of want to say, I appreciate your effort and reaffirm your thinking there. And, you know, it's kind of a tough road to go down, but, development at Hoover Ridge is a great thing, but I think some of the thinking that goes along with that needs to be an eye where the county's committee for economic development, whatever, takes a good look at it and has some thought and development and planning there to kind of have it towards the eye that will benefit the county and be a way actually to increase the tax base for the taxpayers. Don't get me wrong, I mean, our taxes are great here, we live in a great place, but I think there's time to kind of get out of the box of being in and just go a little bit of a different direction. And I certainly appreciate your time for letting me speak publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Kim, do we have anybody online? Oh, it's too hot. All right, well, I assume Chuck, you don't have anything you want to say? All right, I think we'll go ahead and close public comment. Just a brief statement before we get into the old and new business. We're going to get some brief project status updates as we usually do. What we're looking at, I think, really have to focus on today is looking at the legislative program, the town planning for the town hall meeting, and also the legislative roundtable. And since we were charged with coordinating legislative programs for the county by the Board of Supervisors, that's why we're knee-deep into that. So anyway, let's go ahead into old business, and under our project status updates, landfill usage project, Jonathan, do you want to do that, or you and Alan?
I'm going to defer to Alan. I don't have anything new to report, but based on a recent PDRC potential applicant, Alan has explored something for that property. Alan?
All right, so after our last Economic Development Committee meeting, I became aware, Jim Smith sent me some information about a project going on in Powhatan, which is this company, Throttle Therapy. Now, this is a couple of folks that are seeking to lease ground in Powhatan to do motorsports activities. And the scope of their project there is there's 700 acres that's owned by a developer. They're not ready to build houses on it yet. So these folks want to lease it to go and allow people to go ride their ATVs and have a destination event, or, a destination space for people to go and enjoy in the meantime. And it sounds familiar because we have our landfill property, of which is about 240 acres. And only a small part of that is being utilized for our current transfer station. And while we had previously discussed expanding and continuing landfill operations, there's about 185 acres now that's not being utilized. It's simply in forestry. So as I had distributed to everybody via email my initial thoughts on this, would it be feasible to lease the unutilized 185 acres to a private operator to go operate an ATV day riding park, which essentially would consist of trails going through the existing wooded areas that folks could come and enjoy and use the space. We can unpack operations and how all that, the specifics of that later. But generally speaking, I think the question on the table for this committee is, would we entertain and want to explore more leasing a portion of that property to a private operator to establish an ATV park, a place for the public to come and ride? So I think our discussion starts there with, would we entertain a lease on this portion of the property? The goal being is that while we don't have a lot of infrastructure there now, in 20 years that could change, so we don't lose the asset for maybe a more intense development later. But while it's sitting there not doing anything, or, doing very little through its forestry program, it might be a better utilization both for the county to collect the lease dollars, contribute to the economy, greater with folks who come here with disposable income with these toys to spend money other places, and also help a private individual make some money as well. So it seems like it would be a good idea on three fronts.
I'd just like to add to that. I think this concept, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, what's at Lake Anna is a kind of a short-term rental. You rent out the space, which is, I think, some housing or whatever, then you have access. This could potentially be guided tours. So I think it's worth mentioning if you have a vision of someone with a loud dirt bike or stretched some of these racing ATVs, that's not this venue. Guided tours seem to be more of a concept. The other thing, and this isn't trying to discourage this company from the other parcel they are eyeing off Tatum School Road, but the proximity, and Alan and I have talked about a lot of this, the proximity of the landfill property puts you further into the county and nearer to our town. So what we did hear from Throttle Therapy is a lot of their clientele may have toy haulers. So it's an opportunity to maybe collaborate, synergy is energy. So, work with Madison Vine or other operators such as Mr. Helmy, who's looking to open up lodging areas. But it encourages them because they're a little bit closer to our economy here versus the other location. Again, that's not to discourage that location, but I believe the opportunity to have some lodging, what we have available, and some of the shopping and meals tax stands better at this possibility. That's all I had to add.
I think it's worth mentioning that this particular operator, and I would say it has a couple of different business models. The one that they currently have operating at Lake Anna is exactly as you described. You go rent their house. And as a privilege of being there, you can bring your toys and go play. What they're seeking to do in Powhatan County is, here's a large piece of ground that you can come and bring your equipment, just the public in general. At the Lake Anna property, you got to rent their house. It's not open to the general public except just a couple days a year when they have an event. What they would want to do at this property, and the last time they were here, but say we did take a drive down there and go and look at the back of the landfill property. This would be ideally suited for a day riding park. X number of passes per day to not overcrowd. Allow people, let's say, the use of the trails. Ideally, you'd have somebody on site, but we've not unpacked the specifics yet. A little bit of infrastructure would be required. They'd have to build bathroom facilities for the public to use. They'd want a station to where you could pressure wash the mud off your vehicles before you load up to go home. So like that's the minimum of what would be required to operate this kind of a facility. Those things are not overly land intense or while it would be built as a permanent structure, certainly it's not so intense that if you ever wanted to do something 20, 30 years from now, if another use came along, you couldn't change something. But that's where we're starting. Of course, when you have entrepreneurs and visionaries, they tend to think of, okay, well, if we started here, then maybe later could we have a section for camping? Or maybe later could we, do guided tours if we developed a relationship with an adjacent property owner? Or use this as a launching pad to go do something else. So those conversations are always in the works. But as far as this committee is concerned, it really starts with, would we entertain the idea of developing a proposal to go in front of the Board of Supervisors to lease ground for this purpose?
Any thoughts on this?
I would, how many riders do they think they can handle at a time? Do they give an idea?
So on their Lake Anna property, they say that they've done it 2 years, they've had public events. That's a 90-acre property. They said the first year was 100 riders, and while that sounds like a lot, they said you get spread out, you're not riding all day,
That's only 90 acres.
and it was fine.
Okay.
And they said the next year they bumped it up to 130 tickets that they sold for that one, and they said that was about right for 90 acres.
How many?
130. So you could
Okay.
logically double that. So,
Right.
for a property this size, I would think.
So have we thought about a lease in price yet, or not? We're still early in it?
I think, well, this is really early. Do you want to develop that and what those terms look like?
Okay.
What I looked at when I was kind of softballing this one was, okay, what does your timber bring every 30 years?
That was my next question.
And then you divide that revenue out by, okay, so in 30 years, if this is a chunk of money, how many dollars per acre does that yield? And so you would want that to be your baseline.
Yep.
But I don't think it's mutually exclusive, because I think that you could take your timber like in sections. You could do a fifth of the property and timber it, but say, and then 5 years later, do another fifth of the property. And so, you're rotating through, you're managing in that way, so you get both the timber revenue and your lease revenue. And we can talk the specifics of that. We can unpack that more if you want to.
No, that was my next question, so that's good. And then, does the county lease property already? Has Hannon looked at this and said, well, we could lease it?
This is the starting ground.
Okay. That's my questions.
I mean, certainly, that
Yep.
property could be subdivided into its own entity if we chose, and that way you could lease an entire parcel. I
I
think
mean, the
that can
food
happen.
trucks you could have there, the different ways we would make money with TOT, So I think to me, I think we should go forward and explore it more.
Sure. What is it that you would like to see in the further exploration of this? What would you like me to bring back to you to get a package that you could go, okay, we want to take this to the board as a whole to execute?
Well, these are some of my thoughts. First of all is that what are we looking at as far as these infrastructure facilities? Who's going to do it? Are they going to do it, or do we have to do it?
I would expect that the county's responsibility would end at leasing the ground, and you would let the private individual build the infrastructure. Now, that being said, if we think this is a good idea, and you've got operators, there's not a ton of money in operating this. You're collecting a pass from a limited number of people to go and use the facility. So as far as structuring the lease goes, and they have money to put in up front to build out, you have to think of it, the way I think of it is that you are putting an economic asset here that's going to benefit the county at large in addition to a private operator. So with that in mind, I think it would be worthwhile in deferring your lease payments for at least the first year, maybe the first 2 years, so they can recoup their build-out cost, and then you resume regular payments in doing that. Not that you're subsidizing their build, but you're making it attainable for something that otherwise makes some money, but not a ton of it. And so that way we get an asset that we can draw more people here.
Some of the other issues I would have is, one is environmental and noise mitigation. Because I know that noise, I would want a restriction put on the units that would participate on this, not have somebody with no muffler on their ATV, so it sounds like you can hear it 3 miles away. That's one thing that I would definitely want a restriction on for any SUP release. The other thing is, not such a big deal, but it could be, and it's again, environmental mitigation, because these things can really tear up some land, and, how are they planning with regard to do that? Are they gonna rotate trails? Are they gonna plant trails? Are they gonna put gravel in culverts in certain places? Those are some of the details I'd like to see. And I think one of the things that would really be helpful do they have, or one of their similar operations or someone else's that we could go actually visit and take a look at it firsthand?
All right. So I want to go in order on some of the things that you mentioned there. When we met these gentlemen at preliminary development the other week, they addressed some of these issues. And one of the things they said they learned very quickly was that they require everybody who comes to have stock equipment on their bikes.
Okay.
They're not permitting folks to gut the mufflers and have really loud things because I believe they're genuinely trying to be good neighbors. So this particular operator of this event, let's say, or of this space, I think that they're doing their best to enjoy their property while not causing havoc to the neighbors. So they're requiring stock mufflers. They also, let's say, as a part of their consideration for their Powhatan property, the American Motorcycle Association has standards for noise that they're adopting for that property. So I think this operator is very aware of these issues and is doing what they can to try to mitigate those things. So whereas a private individual, and some of us know certain neighbors that come tearing through on, with vehicles with no exhaust that's loud, I don't think that you'll have that same issue. Will you know somebody's there? Sure. But will it be obnoxious? I don't think so. But as far as erosion goes, I did talk to Mr. Sexton, our ENS program administrator, and in talking to him and Scott and Alex, I think that they understand that in certain places where you have depressions, they need to put up silt fence to mitigate erosion. They're aware that those measures are in place. And we can talk to the folks in Orange and their county government and see what their candid feedback is on their project in Lake Anna. And as far as looking at the operation, when I spoke to Scott and Alex last week, they were very open to inviting any of the supervisors or planning commissioners who wanted to visit to come and see their property in Lake Anna. It's not that far away, to go and observe and see what you think before hearing a proposal. So they were very open to that. They've been, very transparent.
Two questions. Is this just going to be weekends, or is this during the week as well?
I think that most of your interest from the public would be in weekends, but I don't see why you wouldn't restrict them, to certain days. I think you would want them to operate and get revenue and use the asset.
So like $20 a ticket, works out to be around $4,000 a day, if that was the case, if it's a weekend.
I suspect a day pass is probably twice that.
Okay. Yeah.
Microphone.
It's on. Sorry there, boss. I think that was at the tickets price and, so we do have a gun range down there. You know what
We
I
do.
mean? So the noise shouldn't be worse than that, I would imagine.
ATV shooting combined.
Yeah.
I mean,
Huh? Oh, I bet you can.
we're not hunting wild hogs, so,
I have one more comment, but point of privilege. Ross, do you have a brief comment on
I
that?
just got a quick question. Will they have any competition style events there? Because a lot of these places have competition style events.
No. My understanding is this is not.
They have not proposed any organized events, like no motocross, no speed competitions or races, no stadium-style events. This is just for somebody like you, me, Joe Public, to take their own machine out there and go ride, or you could rent one.
Yeah. Some of
But
these places just have like, for a better word, a gathering of like minds that show up there. They have certain events they hold for collectors or some places.
I'm going to repeat that into the microphone. A gathering of like-minded individuals that would just want to go and enjoy the property and the trails and their machines, yes.
That's a big selling point.
I think I don't know the rest of the committee, I think we should continue to investigate it. The other thing that just keep in mind is that if we're going down this road with the landfill, whether it's that or something else, what can we do to enhance the overflow benefit of that place? How can we do that in such a way that it's going to benefit some of our other businesses?
Oh, we could do packages.
Okay.
We're
I'm just-
already, there, I would say this would be sort of our demographic. So you've got a family coming in, you've got people that want to hike, but their kids don't, or other people in the family don't. They could do this for a day instead, or
Okay.
go fishing for a day instead, to extend their stay.
This is we're at a very interesting point here. We just had the Rashids come and put in their RV business, and if you think they don't start renting.
They would definitely
I'd
start
say,
renting.
side-by-sides
Oh, yeah.
and four-wheelers and
Absolutely.
things, but I'd say if this happens, that would come. Molly has her events. You bring people in, and then they go different
Right.
directions, like Tracy said. So, you get some people who do Ren Fair and some people who go do this, or while they're, here they do both. They're kind of tying in together. So if we get to the point where you can fill a week, we're in a good spot.
Would you lease space to food trucks?
I don't see why you wouldn't.
I mean, that's natural. Weekends especially would be a great spot for somebody to be able to lease a spot to be there with business. My opinion.
Okay, so just a assent of the committee, do we want to go ahead and continue without a formal motion? Okay, Molly, how are you doing there? You're awful quiet.
Good, no, just on mute so that I don't interrupt you with my uttering, yes.
Okay. All right, Alan, thank you, and keep us in the loop.
What would you like to see?
I would like to see them come back with a specific proposal
For this property,
for this property.
would you like me to have would you like me to to invite them to come to an economic development
Oh,
committee meeting?
absolutely. Would they
Okay.
come and do a presentation of their proposal?
All right, I think we can make that happen.
Let's do it
And
then.
Mr. Chairman, we're tracking three things, but I want to make sure our list is complete if there are other members. So the three things you mentioned, you asked who's responsible for the building infrastructure, environmental and noise mitigation, and environmental planning such as culverts and et
Right,
cetera.
and that's, would be part of the proposal, Alan, that you would pass that, as you've already said that they've already, that's part of their planning. It's, okay, I think it's definitely something, I mean, that land out there, we have, and I agree, it's not mutually exclusive to have this plus continue to do timber operations. But that's a lot of land that's just sitting there that we could be making a lot more money off of.
Between, I think, if memory serves correct, it's between 3 to 400K when we harvest, but that's every, like you said, about 30 years, so, just to give you some rough numbers. No, I'm just stating over,
To build these things, what they would end up doing is running a forestry mulcher through to make trails. And there would probably be a limited area in which there was, you know, a play area, but say with little, you know, jumps and ramps and things to go play on there. So there might be a small area that gets cleared. There'll be a parking area that gets cleared with bathrooms and a drain field. And then the rest of it's just going to be a forestry mulcher that kind of runs through to keep it open enough. And the way they do other places, it's directional, so you don't get people going all different kind of directions. It's a one-way to go through. And, you know, that's
And they
how
happen
do
to
it.
use Daryl's excavating at the property in Orange, so.
Yeah, they're using a
Oh.
local excavator
Yeah.
for their other stuff, so.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Alan, for pursuing that. Judd, do you and Molly have something on tourism enhancement right now?
I'll let Molly go. Go ahead.
Hi, can I make a comment just real quick about the ATV trails?
Yeah.
If in their proposal, we could ask for not just the, how do we get there, but how do we exit out of it if and when they're done with that? And so that we know, okay, is that something that the county would have to buy back infrastructurally? They would walk away from it? What's the dismantlement plan if somebody wanted to come in and do further forestry or any other agricultural kind of activities there? But for them to have a, what happens when you're done idea.
They
Would be
gave that
helpful.
as an example, that Steve and Gerald would come in and you couldn't tell that they'd ever been there. That's
Well,
good.
Yeah, Molly, that would be in the proposal and the ultimate lease agreement, so, but thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. Molly, do you have anything on the tourism part?
So as far as other things for tourism, I have been looking into what Brian was talking about with the Hoover Ridge, having a lot of the families that come for a weekend or even an overnight, and the different avenues we could explore with being able to have those large events in the county without necessarily having a hotel in one location. So there's many ways that we could have a collective, almost Madison-centric Airbnb-style platform, so that people would be able to very quickly, just like a very large hotel, see all of their options for the different events. And then also the potential for a Madison-centric Uber of sorts, or shuttle service to get to and from these events. So that was one avenue that I've been exploring. I think building something that is very Madison-centric to be able to very easily offer people for tourism, something that is a one-stop shop. Because we're finding people's attention spans have gone from 11 seconds when I started in marketing, and now it's 3. So how do we capitalize on things we already have? We also had great response in our festival with the hands-on experiences that we were offering. Of the classes that we offered, we had 4 different slots a day and 4 slots per class. So we had 20 people, half of which drove over 4 hours to take a blacksmithing class in Madison.
Yeah, that's
So
impressive.
pursuing the Fab Lab, or something that was not necessarily going back to roots, but going back to roots in the sense of there are a lot of lost arts and history and crafts and artisanships that are inherent to more rural communities, that are just a way of life in order to keep the tractors going, to keep the barn from falling down, that we take as inherent knowledge that is not accessible to a more urban area. And so over the last 40 years, you have a few generations that go, okay, now we have completely lost touch from even knowing what a drill is or what a tool is to, they don't even know that a tomato grows on a plant. So I think that there would be a way to utilize the inherent knowledge that is already in the county, one of which is our fabulous blacksmith, his name is Taylor, and he owns Platinum Star Forge. He loves teaching. Now he has a facility too. And if we could grow that facility, like Judd and I were speaking previously with the makerspace, it would not only give our county residents access to this, but it would also bring in a pretty wide net for tourism across the country.
Agreed, those are great ideas, Molly.
So it would start with I think an online platform or some type of social media that would link within our tourism. I'm working on, it's called a wireframe, but basically an outline for the web platform that would cost $13 a year to kind of maintain just as a domain sake and piggyback off of these other Airbnb hosts as well as these people that are already teaching privately within their own confines. And then how do we get together to make something more centrally located and kind of pull resources for that wide net to cast?
Yeah, and that could be just a link on, I mean, like, if Brian's trying to bring in baseball, or softball people overnight for these events at Hoover Ridge, it could be a link right on the ticket or right on the any correspondence, so they can click on it. If they want to go glamping, they can go glamping. If they want to go and stay at a high-end Airbnb, they can do that. So if we had a list of, I'm sure there's 50 of them in this county, at least.
There's 427 beds in the county.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is space for a fairly large
Right.
soccer or baseball or football tournament, and I think that having it in one spot is really what would drastically help the turnover rate for these individuals.
Or a Madison Marsupial Mayhem Festival.
Right.
I mean, options.
But, so
Possum?
Festival, why not?
that'll segue right into the next thing then, if you're done.
I'm done, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, that wouldn't be hard to do, and that's something we should do right away. So for any of these, if we have a wine trail or wine and beer trail, which I think we do, Tracy, but I don't know how we're really promoting that at this point, if that's really something we're doing.
We've got different ones. We don't have a.
Yeah.
So-
I mean,
Some way to utilize the website, enhance the website we already have, that's on the signs, it's on the brochures, it's on everything, so.
Right. But, yeah, so back to what we talked about in the last meeting, where a Madison, an 11-year-old boy, gifted Billy the Possum to President Hoover. He got the President Hoover was so impressed that Hoover gave him $5 for it, which is a lot of money in 1929. So we could do events around these things. You could do a reenactment at Hoover Camp, where this all happened, and you could have kids
Legacy series.
give a possum to, say Jim wants to dress up as President Hoover. You get yourself a possum from
We
one of our
did it in
kids.
2014, Jim, you
Oh,
can be the new
okay.
Hoover.
That's right, that's even better.
So the other thing which I investigated a little bit was Charles Lindbergh was here at that event.
I cannot get a blimp, okay,
Not a blimp,
already tried.
but not a blimp. But he mentioned that when he talked to the kids up there and the folks from the mountain, they didn't know that he completed a transatlantic flight, which was one of the biggest news stories of the century, really. And so you could do something around kids making paper airplanes and, having the longest airplane flight. Or kids playing possum so you can stay still the longest and win a prize, those type of things. So,
It could be a great weekend event to promote.
oh, yeah, and so it could go along, it could even, maybe you want to rebrand the Taste of the Mountains and to make it more of the Possum Festival, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so, I think, and our downtown is already playing dead. So, that would be perfect. But, But anyway, so those are just some ideas regarding this possible event, which I think could get some legs and be a lot of
Yeah.
fun, you know.
Awesome man legend like Bigfoot.
It was, I think it was August 11th.
August 11th, and yeah, 2029 would be the
1929.
100th anniversary. We did it
Oh.
on the 86th.
And Tracy, King of the Mountains is in the spring, right?
No, it was
No, ma'am. Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day week.
For shame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's
So I
not,
think I wouldn't necessarily join these two things, I would make them two separate things because they're so inherently different. However, from a vendor perspective, having two different shows, so that you have that like repeat clientele would be very beneficial.
right. No, I was just spitballing, so I mean, it could be great to have two different events. Be fine.
Okay, that's
But I think it's a
great.
great idea to explore more.
Yeah, well, thank y'all for keep digging. All right, Hoover,
Friday,
what's that?
and Black Friday too, we could showcase it.
That's
We
right.
And the Great Depression.
You could have people jumping off roofs. Reenactments.
I'll get on board with it.
That's not funny. Actually, it's hilarious. All right, Hoover Ridge project, since Brian's not here, I think, Jonathan, you were gonna
Yeah, I'll be happy.
kind of update us on what's going on with that.
So the biggest thing in that area is about the 5-acre piece known as the Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center, to which I don't know if we'll rename at some point. Currently, hockey courts are complete. You still have basketball goals and lining of pickleball courts and so forth. The playground's in, that looks phenomenal. The video Lindsay shared, if you did not see Mr. Wall's equipment in the background, you would have thought it was AI. I mean, it's that crisp. The Board of Supervisors, along with PRA, the funding was approved to move forward with the splash pad. Mr. Walls has to schedule come out and put in the new power drop from Fairground Road into the site, and then it's doing some grading prep work for that splash pad. Learned a little bit about hockey because there was a clinic going on at the old site, and they wanted to use the new site. We couldn't allow that because it's currently a construction zone. But that individual I spoke to plays professionally overseas. And what they informed me was the type of tile he recommended that we have out there is kind of world-class for outdoor skating. Folks who want to do roller hockey generally now either go to Warrenton, which is over by the wharf, the Warrenton Aquatics Recreation Facility, or they go to Fredericksburg. We believe we would pull those folks here and possibly out of state, like such as the Carolinas and so forth. So that's pretty exciting to hear. Again, didn't play hockey myself, but to know there's that much of a following that would come to it. Things that are left unfunded at this time, the paving and the lights, have to have lights because the plan is to have hockey there this fall. But you also are going to need a concession stand / bathrooms. If you're going to have a splash pad, got to have a place for people to change, use the restroom. The concession stand, the county's going to have some really increase in maintenance costs this next coming year. We anticipate the splash pad opening probably after Memorial Day next year, or we'll try to open portions of the park if we can fence off that section before then. But that concession stand really should be manned and operated as such, because you would be surprised what you can bring in from concession sales. I think every little bit helps when you're trying to pay for labor, electric, what have you. And it just will overall be a benefit to other things that either currently exist in the park, which one of the number one activities is Frisbee golf, or things that could come to the park. One of the things I've spoke recently, I know with Tracy, I can't remember to this body, yes, you could probably get on your phone if you live out of town and punch in Hoover Ridge, and hopefully Google Maps will take you there. But I'd really like to go out and price some signs to have signage that brings you into the park. Whether that's on 29 and off of Orange Road. But I do think that would be necessary, especially if you're going to build other things out there in the future. I just want to leave this nugget for this group. The Board of Supervisors will be considering this at the end of August. There's about 38 acres that Unfortunately, due to Mr. Weaver's passing, the Weaver family will not be looking at renewing that lease. That is currently in crops. So as I talked to the board, last month, when we come back in August, let me know if you want to continue to pursue that, and we'll put an RFP out for a land lease for farming activity, or if you would like to do something else. I know I've heard talk of the community, whether it's a community center, amphitheater. I've heard miniature golf. I've heard a lot of things, but you do have roughly 38 acres there of county property that needs to have some plant activity. I would not recommend just saying, hey, let it grow up and we'll bush hog it. And we can do that. That's the board's desire. But if you want to continue to enhance that park or drive in things to that area, you may have an opportunity on that 38 acres.
I know that Brian was also working on the tournaments and scheduling tournaments here. How's he progressing on that, do you know?
I don't think we have a hard schedule. I know he and softball's had some conversations, both of those programs. Softball has probably more in-house games here, and I'm talking about more the adolescents, not the younger kid programs. I'll ask Mr. Gordon to provide that update at the next meeting, so you can get a sense of that. Lodging is going to be a big component of that. A lot of these folks, they travel. There's a massive amount of not only the players, but the families come with them. So you need to be able to lodge them as well as feeding them. So I'll ask Brian to provide an update. That may be something that both he and Miss Eanes, who does an excellent job at softball, could piggyback together and give you an example of what that could look like.
I know that Brian has a lot on his plate right now with regard to Hoover Ridge, but I'm thinking that, and I know that there's some organizational transitions being made with PRA, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't try to get, or at least add to, or whatever, a working group of folks that could do some research and make some proposals on the unused acreage. Since at this point in time, this would be as good a time as any to start looking into that. It's not going to happen next year, but I think we need to have a long-range plan for that.
Regarding that, I think it was 18 years ago, perhaps, the landscape architect master's program at Virginia Tech, students had done a proposal of a myriad of things that could be done with Hoover Ridge. And we had just moved here a couple of years earlier, I think, but it was really somewhat exciting. They dealt with all ages in the community, and if that's still around, we might ought to resurrect it and take a look at it as we're considering this.
I agree, Jim. One of the things that's a top priority is they transition over, so we can definitely bring forth that document. But Hoover Ridge does need an updated master plan. It was nice of Virginia Tech to provide that, but if you don't have a master plan, you can easily find yourself sticking the fad of the week, if you will, in certain spots, and it may not be ideal. So also to Jim's point is making sure that park has activities for all ages is important.
Always talked with me, the community center, one time, thought that was a big interest to get a community center in Hoover Ridge, truly be able to serve from the youngest to the oldest, from everything from the senior center. At one time, there was talk of getting a community center there to serve everybody from, the youth to the seniors, so forth and so on. And Culpeper's model right down the road here is a good example of what that can do to help the community for the number of events, classes, and things that continue to go on there. And the acreage has come available. I remember that plan very well that Jim's talking about, and it definitely needs to be updated, but a lot of the things they talked about then involve some of the things you were talking about now. But community center, there's definitely a need in this county for that, will serve so many different groups, and that would be the thing that needs to get put on the burner at some point in time. And remember, serves me correct, Jonathan, one in Culpeper was what, about 2.8 million?
Yeah, and that was probably in 2010, $6,
Yeah.
somewhere between there and 2010.
And I think the pool project then I finished at 6.8 million. So, but the community center would catch so many needs, and I know there's a lot of space in the county now, but as far as a dedicated space for things like rec programs for youth, to tie into the gyms we use on weekends, because it would be much better to be able to spread that out and have things for the seniors and other groups to be able to continually improve the programs they have. But that's just a thought from an old guy. Thank you.
As you'll recall that we had the high school gym for that presentation from Tech, and 6 people were there. Whole lot like the voter turnout we get.
Might as well hold on to it.
One thing about that plan, like you said, 6 people were there. At the time, there just wasn't any money for Hoover Ridge development. That, yeah, still isn't, so that's, but it's such a wonderful opportunity. I mean, that's a lot of land there. And every time my grandson comes up, anybody know where the closest mountain bike trail is? Where's that at? Oh, Greene County? Okay. That's something that comes up, people come to stay next door. A lot of them can go biking and stuff in the county. It's kind of hard to explain to them.
I just sent everybody an email about gravel trails from Virginia Tourism, so, yeah.
Jonathan, how about if you talk to Brian about this initiative and see what his recommendations are for forming a steering committee to see what we can do, planning on that. I know he's already doing a lot of that, but it probably would be a good idea to get something a little bit more formal in place.
Yeah, we can. I will say, what will be some of our challenges is making fields to meet the specs and rules of these leagues. We would have to convert a baseball field, one of them a little larger in size, some of the soccer. I think one of those fields have been enhanced, so yes, we'll talk tournaments, we'll talk about infrastructure, all those needs.
Okay. All right, thank you. We're going to move on just because we're close for time. Alan, do you have anything, updates on the business district planning, RSA, anything moving on there since we last met?
I won't have anything else on a business district until we settle some of the RSA business. Jonathan and I are working on getting some of that going, but with the change in leadership in RSA, it's just taking a minute.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the business district? Tracy, is the Plow and Hearth building still up for sale? Is it ever,
It's up for lease still,
it's up for lease still?
just half of it.
So
half of the
Molly
warehouses.
had a question, and she's like, that could be a place that could host events and also like short-term overnight stays for people in Hoover Ridge and those places, because it's kind of in our commercial district, right?
Yes.
And don't know if that's something that could happen.
Do they have hookup
Hookup?
with water, sewer? What is
Yeah.
common cars? Because
Yes.
it's on that 29 corridor. What is that infrastructurally look like?
They have water available, but no sewer. They use a drain field.
Okay.
Okay. Was sewer easy to get there or no? I mean, sewer's not easy right now for
So
anybody.
that's
but-
part of our
400.
initiative we talked about in the
Part of
beginning
our
of the year,
initiative.
and getting sewer to run down that way, so we're working on that. That's the goal, that's my goal, we'll see what you all end up with, but I'd like to get it as far as the sheets, which would be easy to tap into the Plow and
Yeah,
Hearth building, yes.
Yeah, and then my question is on the old, I guess it's the IGA supermarket here on, right off of Main. Could that be a Fab Lab or something like that?
That has to be taken down.
It's gotta be torn down. And is that still for sale? I thought did that fall through?
It fell through because they lowballed him, and that's not somebody you can come in and lowball.
Right,
So he doesn't care.
okay. That's a lot of properties on our streets up here.
But they're not all for sale.
No,
Or
people just
saying
don't
that,
care.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you, Alan. I know there's a lot going into that RSA deal, and anything else before we move to the next one? Okay. Jim, how are things going with the tax structure, tax analysis of tax structure? I know you've been working with Brian Daniel on this.
Yes, we are moving along on that. The difficulty, well, I won't start with difficulties. What we are looking at is the notion of using a hybrid system that would involve both BPOL and merchant's tax that we have right now. that would help us out. I think there were some surprises when Molly mentioned the number of beds that were available in the county. If we had a BPOL that was the vast majority of the people, if you would look at how it's structured, would not be subject to a tax, just be subject to a minimal cost for a business license, that would give us some idea of the businesses we have in the county, which I think is the goal that we all would like to know, just to see what we have right now that we could exploit from the standpoint of helping them advance their business interests. Because to the extent they succeed, we succeed if we're joined together. But we're looking at there are a number of counties that have gone to a hybrid system. We're looking at that simply because we're locked in at the rates, or the Board of Supervisors is locked in at the rates for merchants tax that existed in 78 or something like that. So your hands are really locked on that. At the same time, you look at BPOL, and that's a tax that was created to pay for the War of 1812. I think we paid for that one. But the taxing structure is what it is, and my goal in looking at it is to create a broader base so that we don't have the insanity of the growing reliance on real estate property taxes. 'Cause, that will be our death knell if we can't move away from it. So that's what we're trying to do some econometric kind of analysis as best we can to see how we can proceed.
I think to add to that, Jim, we're also picking up earlier on the emissions tax, which is allowed by the General Assembly. So there may be some additional opportunity there.
Yeah, that's something that was considered 15 years ago with the first foray of this committee. Times have changed. Maybe we can get further with it.
Okay. Appreciate you pursuing that, Jim, because that is your area of expertise. And Brian's been great to work with on multiple projects that we have. Legislative program, since we were charged by the Board of Supervisors with coordinating our legislative program and presentation to our legislators it's August 25th, correct?
August 27, 4 p.m. at the Firehouse.
All right, August 27th, 4 p.m. And right now, we have confirmed who will be attending.
Delegate Hamilton and State Senator Bryce Reeves. We have invited Congressman Vindman, but I think, Kim, they said it's like a 6 weeks approval process. So it's in the approval
Okay.
process. We just haven't got thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if he can't come, that he doesn't send somebody.
Nathan was great.
Yeah, he's a good guy to work with. We have reached out, I know you've reached out, Jonathan, to all the departments, school system, constitutional offices, soliciting any ideas or any proposals that they have for legislation for the General Assembly. I'm not really sure we've got a lot of response. I do know that the two that we do have definitely, and they will be in the presentation, one is the paramedicine program. I met with that group last week. I mean, they're on the ball. They have all the data, all the facts. They know what they want. And they will be presenting at that roundtable, as well as providing the documents, the handouts or whatever. The other thing is, and Jim and I need to start getting this nailed down, is that we are going to go back and propose the legislation that will allow us to assess impact fees. When land is taken out of A1, C1, and moved into an R designation, would allow locality to assess impact fees. I know that wasn't even on the radar last year. I think it is now, and I think one of the selling points, Jim, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the reasons that some of these legislators might start taking a look is because thinking about the housing shortage, one of the arguments is, well, localities don't want more houses because it costs them money. Well, if there's a way for us to recoup that from developers, we might be more amenable to doing some more housing. And that might be a hook to get us to allow us to get this considered by the General Assembly. So we need to work with Delegate Hamilton and Bryce on this and see what we can come up with. I don't think it's gonna be something terrible to write, but, I'm trying to think of some of the language for this because, when you say reasonable fees, what are we talking about? Can we put a number on something? It's very difficult to do with this kind of legislation or, whatever. But I think that's going to be the key is what is a reasonable impact fee?
That's right. That will be key. And the other player in this thing is the Virginia chapter of the American Planning Association. And their lobbyist is all over this. We've had talks in public sessions as well as privately. So we really need to include him as far as language goes, because he'll have a good sense of
Okay.
who's going to be amenable and in what way.
Should we come up with a first draft and maybe run it by him? We can run it, we'll circulate it among ourselves, Alan, you, myself, actually the whole committee. Then we can send it on to him. And then once we have something, we can go ahead and maybe forward it to our legislators and have them take a look at it. I'd like Hannon to also put his eyes on it. He's been doing that for all of our legislative changes. So that's where we are with that. This is the problem with this whole thing is that it has to be done now. Because when they start looking at bills in the General Assembly, they actually start, I believe, the end of August, the 1st of September, don't they? So it kind of put us in a rush. Next year, we'll have a little bit more lead time on this. But we're waiting for other departments to make suggestions, and, this is an opportunity to get your voices heard.
Well, when the two of us had dinner with Bryce, when we were chatting with him, he's not all happy about getting bounced down to the committee that has jurisdiction over this. But it certainly helps us out.
Helps us out.
And Mr. Jewett, as I mentioned on our conversation yesterday, we are a member of Virginia Institute of Government, and they often provide inquiries on behalf of the county for various things. Somebody might be talking about BPOL, or they may be considering Parks and Rec Authority, so you can canvass the localities. So I put an inquiry there to see if someone has a
Okay.
physical impact program
thank you.
or tool that they use, to please share that. When I have that information, I will send that to you too. And then, Mr. Jewett, if you still prefer, I set a deadline in that letter that I sent out, I think, to ask departments, constitutional office and school administration to have me any of their priorities or issues by August the 10th, I think it was, and I was asking for a summary format or a white paper. And similar, Jim, to how we get our Baker report where we go on legislative day, you would condense those issues on there. And then if there's anything, Mr. Jewett, you would like to have as lead items, because, I would like to have a run-through with this before
Oh, yes.
we meet, so you can say, look, these are items we would like to speak more in depth. Other items may be simply you hand it to them in a document and they'll follow up. I know treatment in place, impact fees are two that will have substantial more time allotted versus some of the other issues that
Right.
may or may not come up, so, thank you.
All right, let's, down to new business, since we are almost at 3, here's what I would suggest. First of all, I want to give Tracy a few minutes to talk about some of the things she's brought up. I'll mention the community theater. We're moving along very well. We have all the major parts casts. We have a production schedule. Mr. Martin up in Banco has been fabulous about letting us use his facilities for practice as well as a performance. And I think this is a good start to this program. We're envisioning several different genres that we'll be doing in the next year. One of them is going to be the Heritage Series, and actually this first play is part of that. We also have another play written by another local author that details some of the things that went on during Prohibition, and I think that's a pretty good one. And then I've got a third one in mind. I have to talk to a community member. But that's part of it, and then they're looking at some other things with the school system. They're looking at a program around Christmas. I know we're talking about some mystery dinner events. So there's a lot that we can do. And I think that if we can get some critical mass on this, it's going to help give us another anchor to bring people in here that like to spend money. So we're counting on you, Jonathan, for a good performance on this. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The big thing that we need to think of next, before I turn it over to Tracy, is we're going to have our town hall meeting, and we haven't exactly set that date, but it's probably going to be somewhere around the 12th.
If the board so pleases this evening, Mr. Jewett, you all will set that date tonight at your meeting.
And I know from last year, folks are familiar with how we did that format. I think we'll keep it this year. So what I'm tentatively looking at is, first of all, we'll have a budget overview, and I'll probably do that with Jim and also with Brian Daniel. And the other thing that we're going to have to present is going to be the model of the 1% sales tax for the schools. That's going to kind of work into that. And the Board of Supervisors, that's under the direction of the Board of Supervisors. We want to do that model as information for our citizens. We cannot officially take a position for or against the 1% sales tax, but we thought that we owe it to the voters of Madison County to know what they're voting for or against in the fall. And then looking at some of the things we've been doing, a short presentation on the landfill and some of the things we've looked at and some of the things we are looking at. I'll let you take the lead on that, Jonathan. And with Alan helping you, I think tourism enhancement, that's something that Molly and Judd and Tracy can work on, kind of give an overview of what we're doing with that. Then that would include things like the theater and some of the other things at Hoover Ridge. Probably should give an update on where we're at with our business district / RSA, Alan. Could you do a short presentation on that? Because that is critical to our business development on 29. Jim, I don't know, what does the committee feel about giving a brief presentation on the tax structure analysis? I think we should put that in there.
I think we should, and what my plan was, if it works with you, is to look maybe over the last 10, perhaps 15 years of seeing what the relative percentages are of the largest elements of the revenue that drive our budget. That's going to be personal property tax, real estate tax, sources from the federal government, sourced from the state government, just to see how that mix has changed over time and see the direction it's going. Pair that with a physical impact analysis of what it is for each household for each given year, and just put those in 2 simple graphs and we can
Okay.
discuss them.
Sounds good. Oh, and not to forget about Hoover Ridge, but ask Brian to come up with a presentation, and you and he or whoever needs to work with you on that, because that's certainly a big deal right now in the county, and we're talking about spending more money there, and so I think people need to have a better handle on what's actually going on out there. Because as we know, people hear this and they hear that, and all of a sudden, we're going to build an NFL stadium out there and NASCAR track, although that might not be a bad thing, but we're not doing that, so we want to clarify. Second. Yeah, there you go, the Madison 500, Possum 500. Okay, so I think if you just think about that, that's what we'll be doing at the town hall meeting. Basically, just giving a summary of what you've been doing on these areas, and then we'll put, brief PowerPoints, slides together, and also a written document that we can post online and also print and hand out. Okay, Tracy, you sent out a bunch of stuff I thought was really interesting. You want to go ahead and take it over and finish us up?
Okay, so I was thinking for the town hall as well, something along these lines, compared with the information we get from the state, from Virginia Tourism. But I've sort of kind of sat and watched other counties the last few years work with this company. They sponsor all the Virginia Tourism seminars and things we go to, but it's called Advanced Travel and Tourism. And along with the company I've been working with this past year, Sherpa, which we still have 3 more trips, those people come in, they are creators, and they will do content for us so I can access that catalog of all the pictures and reels and things that they take, and they actually post them for us in some regards as well. This company does that all the time. with every avenue. So I know our local counties around us, Orange, Culpeper, Green, they all use a lot. I have not considered it before because of the amount they thought we should do. But after talking to everybody, just the one company they go through, Placer AI, who uses the cell phone research, and they can tell you where they're coming from, where they went before, after, what they did while they were here. And it kind of confirms everything we already know. Just that company alone, the Placer AI, for me, would be $15,000. So what I've contracted with is for 6 months' worth for $18,000, even though we said in tourism 12, so I'm gonna have to beg for forgiveness in our tourism committee meeting. But we're doing that, and they said after we see what happens in between that 6 month time period, they feel certain that we will think it's well worth the return on investment. So they are a larger company, total of $2.4 billion, massive digital research, every avenue you can imagine, digital marketing, data-driven technology. And then they give us some of their actual research that they've done from the Placer AI. They already know who our demographics are, which we kind of already know that too. But some things that were sort of interesting. They also showed where we have been, our day trips were up last year, where our overnights were down, which Judd can confirm, everybody accommodation-wise can confirm that as well. So they see our objective is to develop and execute a full funnel digital tourism marketing campaign, increases awareness, consideration, and visitation to Madison by positioning the destination as a premier mountain getaway for outdoor adventure, agritourism, wineries, local experiences, and small town charm, which is what we've all been saying. We already know our visitors are affluent. We've had 67% overnight trips, 34% day trips, high arrivals on the weekends, which we already know. So we're going to double down on our weekend travel, overnight trips for day trippers, promotion, midweek events, and remote work to increase visits during the week. So that's the goal. We already know our top demographic is Washington with 430,000 visits last year. Richmond, 143,000, Roanoke, 103, Norfolk, 88, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York. We've got 63,000 from New York. And most are all driven by regional markets. And so we already know seasonality slows down for winter months, so we're going to piggyback on that too. We're going to focus a lot more too on families and younger people, which plays along with what we've been talking about for outdoor events. Top visited places, Early Mountains, #1, Prince Michelle, Bavarian Chef, Ball Top, Giovanna's, Gino's, Pig and Steak, Piedmont Deli, Meander Plantation, and Revelation are in the order of places they visit. Placer AI and people's cell phone. Cell phone data, yeah.
What's the name of the company?
This company is Advanced Travel and Tourism, but they get that information from Placer AI. And I also do that arrival list too, that I got that grant from, but that's a much smaller piece of information that I can get. Ducard does not collect cell phone, yes, and Old Rag, but we already know Old Rag. It's probably our largest. And we're increasing brand awareness, ad recall. And, Ducard points it out every time. They will also place us on ads, like for Good Housekeeping, that kind of thing, every single avenue you can imagine. So basically, it's like having a staff, essentially, for $18,000 for the 6 months. Where, for instance, Culpeper has one person that does nothing but research, one person that does nothing but social media. It's like everything combined, plus they have to pay for that.
And Tracy, just to clarify, that's coming out of TOT, correct?
All coming out of TOT, yes.
Okay.
As was, and thank you, that was one reason in the back of my mind when we asked for the additional 20,000 for TOT. Yes, that's why.
All right. Anything else?
That is it, except everything else. Taste of Mountains is rolling along, everybody, yeah.
Oh, the parade is coming up.
Tomorrow, and of course, because we're involved, it's 100 degrees, so.
I can't wait. All right, well, that's great. I mean, we're doing a lot of work. I appreciate everything that the people on this committee do. I mean, they take their work seriously and they do a significant amount of work, and it's impactful. Just kind of summarize where we are right now, though, is I think what we need to focus on in the interim is that making sure that we get our presentations for the town hall, which is basically a summary of the work we've been doing. I think that's what our priority is for the next couple of weeks. If you have any questions on the town hall or whatnot, let me know. But again, yes, tonight the board's going to actually set that date. Anything else from the committee?
I have a quick question, Mr. Jewett.
Sure.
How would you like to see, when these reports come in, you just funnel those through you, and we're looking to
Yes.
put that together as one presentation?
Yes.
Would you like to set a, yeah, I don't know, you want a PowerPoint, sir? or-
I would like a couple of slides. I don't need 50 for each presentation, but I think a couple for, 2 or 3 for each one is worth, particularly if you've got to do graphs or you put up any kind of data. Because I know Jim and I are going to have some graphs, God forbid. And those type, anything that visual that just can help enhance what the report actually says. We don't want 100 PowerPoint slides.
All right, and today is July 14th. Would you like to set a deadline to have those by?
It would be nice if, let's say hypothetically, we do get set on the 12th. I'd like to have them a week ahead of time,
Okay.
so I can be looking at them, putting them together, getting back, following up with people to make sure that everything's done. And that includes the written summary as well as any slides you want to send me.
Would you like them that Monday, August the 3rd to 12th? The actual town hall, the 12th, if you set that tonight, is a Wednesday. Kim would publish the packet August the 7th, which is that Friday before. Would you like them on August the 3rd, that Monday, or would you like them prior, say, that end of that week on the 31st, that Friday?
I think if we get them on the 3rd and they're in good order, that's going to be plenty of time.
Okay. Kim will send
Judd,
an
you
invite
okay
out
with
as a
that?
reminder, reports due on the 3rd to Mr. Jewett, please. Thank you, sir.
I know last year, we had quite a bit of online participation for that meeting. I know I heard a lot of comments from the citizens that they had seen it online. So, I think it's becoming more and more important because one of the things that the town hall does, it gives the county government a chance to really say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're focusing on. And I think that's, we don't have that in any other venue. So I think this is growing in importance. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, yeah, public comment, sorry. I'm like Cardi, I skip over public comment all the time.
I'd just like to take time to remind everybody that the Madison County Fair is coming up, besides the parade. Last year on Friday night, the annual livestock sale where the youngsters sold their project animals, that sale grossed approximately $250,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of community support from a lot of different businesses and groups.
That is.
And I'd just like to take time to remind you all that a lot of things go on in the county, and that fair is a really big economic engine for a lot of the youngsters that are participating. And I'd like to just remind everybody, if you get a chance, come out there and support the youth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
One other
Uh,
thing,
Mr.
please, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Early voting is going on for Republican primary for Senate and House of Representatives. 38 people have voted so far.
Wow, what high turnout.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you for leading this effort with the EDC and doing such a great job, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll see what the result is, but thank you for that. It's a team effort, it's not one person. We have a good team. Well, you know what I tell a fellow supervisor all the time? It's all theater. Government is all theater.
Hold on. Okay, so while we're at it, and another thing. This quote by Simon Sinek, "Greatness happens when the person with the wild imagination collaborates with the person who knows how to get things done."
That's a good, I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
On that, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Any seconds?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you all very much.